Olive Garden is known for providing fast and affordable Italian dining to the masses. But just how do its most popular dishes stack up against each other? Because your family, as the slogan goes, here are the most popular Olive Garden menu items ranked from worst to best. In a cruel twist of irony, the dish we were most excited about was the one that left us the most gravely disappointed. Olive Garden's Alfredo sauce is practically iconic. Made in-house and oh so velvety, the recipe has stayed tried and true with zero alterations since the restaurant was founded. For many of us, it was our first introduction to Italian-American food and was the highlight of a trip to Olive Garden as a kid. Sadly, our visions of fettuccine enveloped in the creamy and luscious Alfredo sauce came crashing down on our most recent visit. What we received was a generous portion of pasta that wasn't tossed in the sauce that we know and love. Instead, a tiny scoop of the homemade sauce sat atop and towards the center of the heap. There was no attempt from the kitchen at combining it with the pasta, and by the time it reached our table, it was heading towards congealed territory. Without it being properly combined, some noodles were drenched in sauce that was less of a sauce and more of a solid cheese, while others were completely bare. The sautéed shrimp were tiny, as expected, and lacked any additional flavoring that would have helped save the dish. There are many ways to kick off a meal at Olive Garden, but never with our evening selection, Lasagna Fritta, which was our next foray into OG oblivion. Learn from us, friends. This popular item is unique to the establishment and is described as fried Parmesan-breaded lasagna topped with Parmesan cheese and meat sauce with pan-seared beef and Italian sausage that is then served over creamy Alfredo sauce. It was a heavy start to our meal, but we were just getting started and felt up for the challenge. What we received could be best described as a plate of deep-fried nonsense. We were expecting an exterior similar to that of a toasted ravioli, but the fritters were not at all crispy. The addition of multiple sauces added further to its sogginess and our utter confusion. There was simply way too much going on, with the only flavor that shined through being one of grease. Next time, this will be a hard pass. You don't get much more quintessentially Italian-American than the Chicken Parmigiana. While unheard of in Italy, this is a staple in many American restaurants and should be the shining example of how you judge them, at least in our humble opinion. For Olive Garden's version, this classic entree comes with 2 lightly fried Parmesan-breaded chicken breasts that are covered in a homemade marinara sauce and then topped with melted Italian cheese. We had high hopes for this one, so let's start with the positive. The chicken was actually cooked really well, but everything fell flat after that. The breading had no distinct flavor outside of a salty profile. The sauce and cheese added little to the dish, especially since they seemed to have been left under the broiler just a bit too long. And it was served with a standard, sad side of spaghetti and sauce that proved to be just okay, with the pasta being slightly overdone. Overall, it was completely forgettable and something we think should be avoided at all costs upon your next visit. Our harrowing journey continued with another Olive Garden classic, the Tour of Italy. In this dish, full single servings of each of the 3 Olive Garden classics, Chicken Parmigiana, Lasagna Classico, and the signature Fettuccine Alfredo, come together on one large, almost family-sized plate. With a price point just shy of $20, it is a fantastic deal, but we base that solely on the portion size. It began with a portion of the forgettable Chicken Parmigiana on one side. Then, cradled in the middle, you'll find a heaping portion of the fettuccine that was, once again, just topped with their signature Alfredo sauce as opposed to it being mixed thoroughly. Then, the Lasagna Classico looked like an absolute mess, a far cry from the countless photos used on menus and in commercials. The reason the Tour of Italy even made its way slightly up our list is solely based on its price point, as it felt less like a tour of Italy and more like a tour of the frozen aisle at your local grocery store. Unfortunately, beyond it being one heck of a deal if you're starving, there's no other reason to order this dish. Things are beginning to look up, we promise. The classic and comforting dish of baked ziti brought pasta, sauce, and cheese together in perfect harmony with an explosion of flavor that's baked to ensure a nice, crusty exterior. Simply described as a baked blend of Italian cheese, pasta, and their signature 5-cheese marinara, Olive Garden's version is about as traditional as you'll find in any chain restaurant. Upon first inspection, you'll notice a perfectly golden crust on top of the dish and a generous portion of pasta beneath. The mozzarella was the prevailing flavor, with the signature 5-cheese marinara acting as a secondary contributor, but we do wish there'd been a creamy element to the dish. Simply put, however, it was pleasant. Bonus points for it being just as delicious reheated the next day. Nothing gets a meal going quite like a nice cocktail. With Italian food, you can usually count on a nice glass of crisp red wine to be the perfect complement to an Italian meal. But at Olive Garden, a place that does not exactly do things traditionally, the signature cocktail is an Italian margarita. And the verdict? We didn't hate it. The addition of the amaretto gave it a certain brightness with a unique tart meets sweet flavor. This one also has the added bonus of being quite boozy, with approximately 3.5 ounces of liquor in it. The Italian twist was a bit of a surprise and offered a less in-your-face sweetness than the standard chain margarita. Since it is sugar-laden, it might be more classic to pair your Italian-inspired meal with a glass of wine. Still, we enjoyed its refreshing nature, and the buzz certainly prepared us for all the food we were about to consume. The tiramisu is one of the few dishes on the Olive Garden menu with actual roots in Italy. The classic, no-bake, coffee-flavored dessert is served cold, and it's rich yet light, and offers just the right amounts of sweetness with a dash of bitterness to cap off a meal. The subtle jolt of caffeine also provides the added bonus of helping you thoroughly avoid a food coma. Color us impressed that Olive Garden actually serves a very good version of the Italian dessert. With a non-alcoholic spin to make it a family-friendly option, it's layered with custard and espresso-soaked ladyfingers as opposed to the rum in the traditional preparation. On our visit, we found it to be incredibly delicate and flavorful. We missed the slight bitterness that the alcohol provided in soaking the ladyfingers, but the espresso mimicked it quite nicely. Bravo, Olive Garden!
Why don't you find something you want on the menu? And you nod and smile. All right, bigger nod. This all looks yummy.
At this point in our meal, as we were enjoying the main events, we were almost confident Olive Garden couldn't deliver in the entree department. And then came the chicken Marsala. As luck would have it, this beacon of hope finally came along to change our minds. The chicken was cooked to juicy perfection, while the plentiful mushrooms and Marsala sauce offered delicious flavors in perfect consistency. It was a welcome diversion from the often overpowering sweet versions of Marsala sauce that tend to be found at mass-produced chain Italian-American restaurants. It's served with a side of their fettuccine Alfredo, and we found the creaminess was a nice complement to the savory, sweet elements of the main course. The roots of the cheesecake are highly debated, but one thing is clear: do not confuse New York-style cheesecake with the Italian variety. The Italian version of the dessert uses ricotta cheese, and the result is a more delicate, airy, and whipped-like texture. Olive Garden pleasantly surprised us with a splendid presentation of the classic Italian preparation. The body of it was super light thanks to the ricotta, and we positively loved the flavor of the shortbread cookie crust that complemented it and added a hint of sweetness and welcome crunch. Unlike so many strawberry sauces that tend to lean towards a syrupy texture and overly sweet flavor, this one tasted very fresh and used nice, large chunks of strawberries. This was a real winner and a true highlight of what was otherwise a pretty lackluster meal overall.
I'll take half of the half of the half.
Can't believe people live like that.
Okay, now we've made it to the good stuff. The heart and soul of Olive Garden. As we inch into the top 3 of our list, we've entered the true reason why we love this place to begin with. While it can't always be rainbows and sunshine, there are some downright stellar options to be found here. Complimentary and bottomless with each and every meal, the house salad is a staple of Olive Garden. Served in a giant bowl, it comes topped with tomatoes, olives, onions, and pepperoncini, and is served with the chain's signature Italian dressing, which it describes as a special blend of Italian spices, oil, and vinegar. We'll just call it heaven in dressing form. This is the pinnacle of salads and the reason to visit the chain. On our visit, the lettuce was perfectly crisp, and the ingredients were a wonderful complement to the dressing, which, if we were able to, we'd probably drink in bottle form. It's tangy, slightly sweet, and all around just perfect. There's a reason this salad dressing has been on the menu for more than 35 years, and we doubt we'll ever see it leave. Another perk of this salad is that your server will also gladly hand-crank Parmesan cheese over the top of the plentiful dish to your heart's content. Keep it coming. While you might be tempted to go straight from the free salad to the entrees, Olive Garden actually has a rather impressive selection of homemade soups. There's zuppa toscana, minestrone, pasta e fagioli, and the fan favorite chicken and gnocchi. Described as a creamy soup made with roasted chicken, traditional Italian dumplings, and spinach, what this soup lacks in photogenic qualities, it certainly makes up for in flavor. In fact, even when we received our entrees, we continued to retreat back to our giant bowl of comfort. Creamy without being too thick, it had the consistency of a hearty broth and was chock full of ultra-tender chicken and soft, pillowy dumplings. The only way to describe it is utterly addictive. While it's doubtful we'll be seeking out a dinner return to the Olive Garden in our future, the lunch special is reason alone to visit. Available on weekdays only, this plentiful bowl of deliciousness, along with salad and breadsticks for under $8, is an absolute steal. We would have been wholly satisfied if our meal started and ended with Olive Garden's golden brown breadsticks. The restaurant's breadsticks are a cathartic experience and the true star of the Olive Garden show. Freshly baked every 15 minutes, breadsticks are complimentary with every meal. Perfectly salted, they are served warm and feature a garlicky, buttery exterior, offering just the right amount of crunch, which opens to a wonderfully pillow-like inside where all your carby dreams come true. Also offered unlimited throughout your meal, the only thing needed to bring these babies to the next level are the sauces that you can order to dip them in. Available in 8-ounce bowls, you can dip these sticks to your heart's content in fresh marinara, homemade Alfredo, and 5-cheese marinara sauces. A meal at Olive Garden might be full of twists and turns, but the trifecta of breadsticks, soup, and salad is the real reason you should visit. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about all your favorite restaurants are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.